Hi, this is like Paranormal, like, Fest 5010 or whatever. Basically, I am trying to document all the paranormal experiences I've had. This kind of was triggered by another YouTuber, which I'll put her information below. Her name's Bunny. I don't know what her real name is, or if that's her real name. I don't know. That's what she calls herself. But anyway, she's had a lot of paranormal experiences and vlogs about it, so it kind of just inspired me to do some. And since my channel seems to be very sporadic in its topics, I figured I'd add this to it and try to spread awareness of, you know, people that have these experiences, so maybe you don't feel as weird or whatever. Because me personally, growing up, especially when I was really young, you know, my dad, and he still doesn't really believe in it, he never believed like what I saw and everything like that. So it was really hard because I felt like I had nowhere to turn to besides my brother, and he was in the same boat I was in because he experienced a lot of what I experienced. I'll start off with the one house we lived in. It was on the west side of Cleveland. We call it the greenhouse, me and my brother, because it was a greenhouse. And we've lived so many places that you just kind of differentiate them by that. But anyway, the greenhouse we lived in when I was in 3rd grade up until, I think, yeah, 4th or 5th grade. I think it was up till 4th grade, and then I moved again. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I was young, and just like because like before that, I lived in the other apartment that I had mentioned in a different video, the one that I always had nightmares in. But I was really young, so I never really experienced anything there besides the shadow and the nightmares that I can remember anyway. The greenhouse was the first house that I really started experiencing crazy things. Basically, it was a pretty big house, but it could just be big because previous to that we'd only lived in the apartment. There was 2 rooms on the main floor, the living room, the dining room, then a kitchen, and then downstairs there was like the finished part of the basement, the unfinished part of the basement, and then there was an attic. And the attic, the way that you got in it or whatever, like there was a door in the room that me and my brother shared. It looked like almost like a closet, like just like a regular door, but when you opened it, it was like the landing, and then a little like drawstring light or whatever, and then the stairs to the attic. And I always hated that room, and I had nightmares in that room all the time too. And I didn't like the attic, I didn't like that door, and I just hated it. And me and my brother still shared the room, and we had bunk beds, and I was on the top bunk. And I would always hear things in the attic. I would hear footsteps, and it wasn't just like the house creaking, like, you know, the wood settling, because footsteps have a distinct sound because there's like the pressure, heel to foot, or like whatever you want to call it. I also heard boxes moving, things like that. And the one night I was trying to sleep, and I noticed a light underneath the door to the attic. And I thought, you know, first thought was me and my brother must have left the light on. So I jumped down and opened the door expecting to turn on the light, and it was pitch black. It scared the shit out of me. I screamed, and I slammed the door, and I ran downstairs because my dad was awake on the computer. And I think his friend Dave was with him, either living there or just over or whatever. And I told him what happened. I was crying, and he's like, you know, it's nothing, just go back to bed. And I couldn't go back to sleep. I don't remember. I think I ended up sleeping with my brother that night, which ended up happening a lot, where I would just ask to sleep next to him because I would just be so scared, like, being in that room. And my brother used to have I don't know what they were called, like maybe night terrors, where he would be asleep but his eyes would be open and he would be talking and moving like he was awake, but he was dreaming because he was seeing something completely different and just not there. It always happened when he'd have a fever, which I don't think he has any of those anymore. It seemed to be only when he was a kid, which was weird. And the one night he was having a night terror in that room, and he was like pointing at the wall or an area by the wall, and he's like screaming, and I'm like, Mom, I don't see anything, what is he pointing at? And it was just like so freaky. Another night, something weird was happening, so I decided I was going to sleep in the living room, and the light in the living room kept going on and off, and I was like just screaming and crying, and my mom's like, you know, it's just light, it's faulty or whatever, and it was just crazy. Eventually my parents ended up moving down to the basement in the room down there, so me and my brother would have our own rooms because I was getting older and I really needed my own room. So I moved in the room across the hall, which was my parents' old room. And ever since I moved from that one room to the other, like, everything was much better. Like, I could sleep. Like, I didn't have nightmares constantly. I still didn't really like the house, and I hated the attic, but it was a lot better once I moved out of that room. Also, another thing that happened was my first experience with, like, my dreams coming true, or whatever you want to call it. The one night I was having a dream about because I had hamsters, like, when I was growing up, and for whatever reason our hamsters kept getting loose, and in the dream it did, and it was crawling across the floor, and then I looked in the doorway and there was like a skeleton standing in the doorway, and the minute I saw that I woke myself up because I could do that. And when I woke myself up, the imprint of what I was looking at was still in the doorway. It was probably just because I was still somewhat asleep, but it still freaked me out. And then right after that, when I had jumped down, like, to, you know, like I said, lay next to my brother because I was terrified, my hamster walked across the floor. And that scared me even more. Like, why would I dream about that? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, number one, hamsters don't make a lot of noise or anything, so why would that trigger anything in my brain to, like, dream about it? And number two, I was on the top bunk, so there's no way the hamster could have crawled up there, and, like, that's why I dreamt about it. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. So, and my brother did say that the one day he saw, like, some weird people outside, and I always thought like he was just dreaming or something, but I recently asked him about it, and I asked him if he remembered what he told me, and he said that he did. Like, there was like these weird people in gray suits outside, like, with these rods, like, surveying the lawn or something, like, in the middle of the night. Like, so weird. So that's it with the greenhouse. I'm gonna move on to McGregor house, which is the house we lived into after that. Like I said, we moved so much, so that'll be the next video.